I really felt that God was with me my whole life, and I often cried out to him when I needed him, but wasn't really following him, even though I had made that choice. It was really when I was 23 that it really was a major change, and it really became the center of my life. The focal point of my life was there was nothing else was going to be more important than my relationship with God, because I felt like if that got priority in my life, then everything else in my life would get extra priority, because I was starting there. I really just kind of surrendered everything, my career, my relationships. This handsome young guy here is Pat Boone. You may know him as Sir Pat or Mr. Boone or Booney.
No, that guy, that's how you know me.
This is my brother, Pat Boone.
Yes, I'm Pat Boone, and this is my brother, Eric Close. And as you can see, we're very close. We are closer than brothers, or as close as brothers. And he is an actor par excellence, been in a lot of movies, more than me, more movies, excellent dramatic actor, but also a great golfer and a good Christian brother. So we've made this incredible film together, which I hope we're going to talk about.
Yes.
But I just got to be clear, I can't sing like him, so,
Yeah, that's a problem.
I've heard him,
I may have a couple more projects, but he's got more songs. He's released more songs, recorded more songs than anybody in history.
Really? I'm just a recording fool, or at least a fool.
And you're not a fool.
That's great. That's great. We are here today with legend Pat Boone, movie star, gold recording artist, best-selling author, Broadway show headliner, and television star. He has sold 45 million records. He has had 18 songs that have been on the top 10. He's had 38 songs on the top 40. His song, Love Letters in the Sand, was on the charts for 43 consecutive weeks. And on top of all that, he has 3 stars on Hollywood's Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. So exciting. But what's exciting for us too is he has a new movie out called The Mulligan, and he's going to play the old pro. But we are here also with his co-star, Eric Close, who is also a film and TV star in his own right. So we're really glad to have both of you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be
Welcome.
He didn't know about the 3 stars.
I think that's like being a triple Oscar winner, right?
Well, mine was TV, movies, and records.
Oh, I see.
The only thing you don't do is dance, but actually you play golf.
I do play golf.
Which is good.
I play the old pro in the movie, a revered old pro, and I got the part because I'm old. I was never a pro, but I do play golf, and I wear this garb as Payne Stewart did too, for most of his career, a lot of his career, and we are paying tribute to him. I do. I wear these clothes, and I have about 20 of these outfits made by Tim Barry. He made them for Payne Stewart, and we support the Payne Stewart Camp for Kids, golf camp, and they show me as the old pro teaching kids in his place how to play golf, and so this has a real depth to it. This movie, it's not just about one thing; it's about life, the variety of things we face in life and the mistakes we make, and wish we could go back and do over again. That's what we call a mulligan in golf, is a do-over, a second chance, and a start again. And that's what Jesus offers in life, is the chance to go back, and actually he'll take our mistakes and pay the price for them and give us a clean slate and start over again, mulligans. And so it's got a great theme, but it's also a great film about golf and about real life. And Eric plays the golfer, the real golfer.
It's all special effects.
No, he is a good golfer. And you'll see when you see his golf swing, golfers will say, hey, that guy can play. And he can, he does.
And so it's a fictional story, but
Yes.
similar to true life.
Oh boy.
Well, yeah, it's based on, the Mulligan's based on a book by Wally Armstrong and Ken Blanchard. And it follows the life of a guy, Paul McAllister, who I play, who runs a Fortune 500 company.
He's on his way to being a billionaire.
In the world of tech, and he's actually a guy who's got a lot of integrity, but his biggest downfall is his pride. And in his pride has caused a rift in his family life. So he's estranged from his wife. They've been separated for 5 years. His son hates him. Feels like he's abandoned his family for his work, which is true. So his life is off course. And through a series of events, Paul gets introduced to this guy over here, this kid, and they develop a bond. And Old Pro helps Paul redirect his life and strengthen and find faith in his life, and then everything else follows from there. So it's an awesome story of hope and redemption and forgiveness, healing, broken relationships, and in the day and age we're living in right now, we're all in need of some hope. And what I love about this movie is, we've discussed this, is that families can go see it.
Yeah.
And
You can take the whole family and go see a film again.
yeah, and it's not heavy-handed. It's real. It's very authentic in its themes that I think everybody can identify with. Last night we screened the movie, and I was looking around the theater, and you could just see people crying and laughing, and it really moved people in a big way.
There's lots of funny moments in it because things, real funny things happen in life. And the Old Pro convinces this hotshot atheist guy that he can get a mulligan and a restart in his personal life, as it will affect his golf, and that the two things are related as they go along. And as he eventually learns that if he will accept mulligans, do-overs, second chances, that he can enjoy it and be better at his golf, but also maybe save his marriage and his relationship with his son, which is finished, it's gone. And so people can identify with this on many levels because it's real people in real life. And golf is the avenue in this case in which he learns that he can reclaim things that he lost in his life, thought were gone forever. It's a story that needs to be told in this day and time where the culture is really getting very seedy and shady and hard to bring up your kids in. Here's a film you can take them to see, and they come out saying, I want to be like those guys.
Exactly.
Yeah, and between the two of us, we've got 4 daughters, okay? And I heard...
No, between the two, we got 6 daughters.
Oh, 6, I'm sorry, we have 6, that's right, correct. You
I've got
4, me
4.
too. And, I've heard Pat say, when you have boys, teenage boys, you worry. When you have teenage daughters, you pray.
I pray.
And in this, I think, your audience is you're reaching out to families and to parents, and that's a common theme. We as parents, we all are concerned about our kids, and and when they enter those teenage years and we're trying to navigate and help them get into adulthood, and there's a theme that runs through this film of faith, of parents, and in particular my wife in the film, Rebecca, and my assistant, Harriet, are in a women's Bible study group.
Yeah.
And they're praying for my character, Paul, and praying for healing and the healing relationship with my son. And so I think parents, when they see this film, they'll also be able to relate with the struggles that we all have with our kids, and they have with us. We're trying to get them right, and sometimes we're a little too hard on them, and sometimes we're not, and just trying to figure out how to navigate. And I love that element of this story, the parent-son, the father-son relationship, the husband and wife relationship.
And one more, by the way, Eric, that we were talking about last night after we saw the film, the relationship between these two guys, 2 adult men who come to love and respect each other, but it's an honorable love, a brotherly love, 2 men. And I think we use that in today's...
And a father-son. I mean, in the film, Paul doesn't have a relationship with his father. And you can see why he took this certain direction in his life. And, this relationship is God ordained, that old pro comes into Paul's life to help guide him back to a different path and a better path in his life. And so they developed this great father-son relationship that Paul never had. And I don't want to give too much of the story, but in a way, Paul becomes the son that this man needed.
Yeah. And you'll have to see the film to know what that means. But I will say this: I had not seen the whole film till last night on the big screen, and I was borrowing napkins from him because I was crying. I mean, not just in parts that I was in, but in his relationship with his wife and his son. I mean, you know, these are real things. These are real people. These are real emotions. And it's not one of those films where they meant well, but they didn't know how to portray it. And so the films don't succeed. And the people who need it most don't identify with it. But in this film, you identify with people in this film, and you say, well, that's like me, that's like me. And it is. So now, where do we go from here? Mulligans, you mean I can start over? I can have a second chance at bad mistakes that I've made in my life? Yeah. In this film, I, as the old pro, said, Jesus offers you a clean scorecard because God demands perfection. If you just miss one putt, then you don't make the cut. And he says, that's awful narrow, it's harsh. I said, yeah, but God knows nobody can do that. So he sent his son, Jesus, to die for our sins, to pay for our mistakes, give us a clean card with our name on it, but his score.
And I love how you're saying about the relationships with the husband, wife, and the son, and right now people need that more than ever.
Oh yeah.
And we want a guidance on that. It's so great to go and see that displayed and learn from it when we're not even realizing we're getting fed that. And you were talking about this old pro coming into that person's life, but what if a person or a family doesn't have a physical old pro?
Mm-hmm.
Where can they go?
Well, see, that's for some people, the father relationship is broken, and it's quite common. I see it all the time, and it's unfortunate. Your Heavenly Father loves you. Your Heavenly Father wants to be in relationship with you. People, I don't get that father thing. And until they experience it, Paul's relationship with his father is broken. He doesn't want to have anything to do with God. He's like, God, Father, what's that? I don't buy that. And he meets a guy who is an example of that fatherly love and that godly fatherly love for the first time in Paul's life. And then the light bulb goes on. And he's like, oh, wait, I get it. I get it now. Mm-hmm. And now I know how to love my son, and I see where I'm falling short. And now I have a chance. I have a second chance to make it right with my kid.
Yeah, second
and
chance.
With my wife, I get a second chance. I didn't think that was possible, because he's a by the book guy. He looks at golf and says, well, the reason I like golf is you follow the rules and there's no breaks. Now, when you're playing the game of golf, yes, in the rules, you got to play by the rules. But old pro points out, golf and life have a lot of similarities. It's almost like they parallel each other. Mm-hmm. The difference is, in life, you do get a do-over because of God. There's forgiveness. Everybody's redeemable. And it doesn't matter how mess of your life you've made. And I've seen it. We've all seen these amazing transformations of people. His character experiences something really horrific in his life. And I don't want to give it away until you see the film. But even that horrible, horrible thing that happened to him, God uses for good in the story to bring Paul to meet old pro. What happened to him could have destroyed him in his life and his testimony, but he didn't. He got a second chance, and then ultimately God worked it all for good. So it's really cool, and that's that message of hope of like, don't give up, don't give up. And these are hard times. So I would tell people, don't give up, So.
You've seen this film.
I have.
I'd love to hear your family story. Just people want to know, gosh, how were you raised? How did you raise your own kids? How are they doing? And how does faith weave into that?
Okay, I became a Christian when I was 13 on my own, my dad a building contractor, mom a registered nurse, very practical professions. But so was our church, our reading the Bible, praying together, practical part of our lives. So I was expected, the oldest of 4 kids, to walk down an aisle when I was 12 and confess my faith and be baptized and become a Christian. But I wanted to know for myself what it was about. And even though we'd had Bible studies, I wanted to read it. And I was reading the New Testament at 12, just reading through, and I get to Matthew, that's pretty early in the New Testament, but Matthew 10:12, where Jesus says in red letters, and I knew that was important, that anyone who confesses me, claims me before men, I will claim before my Father in heaven on the day of judgment, the last day. Anybody who denies me, I will have to deny before my Father and the angels. A 13-year-old, a 12-year-old can understand that. Oh, I see. That's why I'm going to go down. I'm going to claim Jesus as my Savior and be baptized and become a Christian. Because that day will come in my life, no matter how long I live, when that's going to be the most important thing about my existence. I got that. And so I went down the aisle, became a Christian. I was baptized, and I was not a bad guy before. But I became a better guy. I mean, there was something in me now, because I did receive the infilling, the filling of the Holy Spirit, that told me I'm a child of God now. I'm a young brother of Jesus. And that means there's expectations about how I'm supposed to live. I get it. And my brother did, and my sisters did. So now, when I married at 19, Shirley, a girl who was married baptized at 11, I think, herself, in Chicago. And we both knew what was expected of us as we were married, as we had our 4 kids. And then as I thought I was going to be a teacher preacher, but God had a better idea. I'd made a couple of records. They became huge hits. I became a teen idol. And I was at Columbia University. I transferred from North Texas State to Columbia University to get my degree, because I knew I was going to wind up being a teacher anyway. This record stuff was not going to last. But on the cover of TV Guide, when I graduated, I was already doing my TV show, movies, records. I'm on the cover of TV Guide in my cap and gown, and you open it up and there's a picture of my wife, Shirley, and 4 daughters, and we were 23. At 23, that had all happened in my life. So God just took me in a totally different direction, and we moved to California so I could do movies, records, and TV all from one place, and my daughters could have hopefully a normal life. We were a praying family, a church-going family. We had our devotionals in the morning before I took the girls to school. We had devotionals. I mean, we were not in some way crazily religious, but it was just practical, like I grew up. And it became a practical part of their lives. 4 daughters who married Christian guys, gave us 16 grandkids. Now I have over 16 great-grandkids. I say over because they're still coming, great-grandkids. All Christian, all believers. And this was in the middle of Hollywood. So making movies, TV, records, all that, business interests, starting the ABA basketball league, owning the membership, the championship team, Rick Barry and the Oakland Oaks. The league failed, but I kept going. and so that's my story. I've been, once I was honored by Beverly Hills. They honored Playboy the same night that they honored me. Playboy, Hugh Hefner in the magazine, and they raved about his contributions. And then they interviewed, and I said, this is really amazing. Playboy honoring Playboy and Prayboy the same night. And they got it, that I was living a totally different life than Hugh Hefner. Well, he's dead and gone to meet the Maker and justifying his Playboy philosophy to Jesus. I'm looking forward to my meeting Jesus.
Yeah, Pat's been, consistent and intentional his whole life. And I knew about Pat as a young man, because my mom and dad played his music and watched his movies. And my mom, told me when she was younger, she had a crush on this guy, like so many other.
I told you I was the old pro.
Yeah, you were, yeah. And because he had a great image and it was authentic. And Pat has never apologized for his faith. You know,
I
he's
didn't
never
have
made
to.
it.
It
Yeah, he
was
didn't make
known
it
at the beginning,
and you
so-
don't make excuses for it. You know, it's like this is who I am, and you're you know, and
You're stuck
that's-
with it.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, this is who I am, and that's inspiring. You know,
Well-
you're not trying to. You have an audience of one. You know that you're living
Yeah.
your life for God first and
Exactly,
foremost, not
that's
worrying
right.
about what the
That's
others
right.
think, and that's hard to do.
And
in the world.
I made tough decisions. I don't know if Eric even knows this. When I was under contract at 20th Century Fox, a 7-year deal, and so was Marilyn Monroe. So I'd had some hit movies, and they wanted to pair us in a movie, but it was an immoral story about a young guy with a slightly older but still voluptuous cabaret performer, and they have an affair, and it can't last because he's too young for her, and so she breaks his heart and leaves. And they wanted me to make this movie. And I said to the head of the studio, I can't do this. I'd like to make a movie with Marilyn Monroe, who wouldn't? But I can't do this. And I have teenage fans. I can't do this. They threatened me with suspension, but I said, okay, you do what you have to do. I have to do what I have to do. And so they got somebody else. They got Joanne Woodward and Richard Beamer to make that film, which was a terrible flop. And they had me make Journey to the Center of the Earth, which became a cult classic. And so, I mean, I've had to make decisions like that, which could have been career ending. I knew that. But God had put me there, and he said, you know, in 1 Corinthians, let a man stay in the vocation in which he was called. I was called while I was, well, even before I was in the entertainment business, but then called while I was in it. And so he just said, bloom where you're planted, I'll take care of you.
And I love that because.
But you got to hear about Eric.
Yes, yes.
My story's boring compared to your story. So you know.
So Eric, family and faith.
Yeah, I
a lot.
I have a great family. You know, my parents brought us. I have two brothers. One of them recently passed away, sadly, but we are a very close family. And my parents used to take us to church as kids, but you know, we were pretty bored. We were squirming in the pews and stuff. Not really, you know, not all that excited about being there. Not paying attention in Sunday school class. But then my parents sent me to a private Christian junior high, middle school, and that's when I was first called to faith. And I think I was at an assembly. Someone invited me on a Saturday night or whatever, and that's when I heard the gospel message and the, you know, saving message of Christ. And what really resonated with me at that time in my life was that Jesus, it was like who he loved and who he reached out to, and it was the outcasts, it was the downtrodden, it was the lost, the broken,
The poor.
and yeah, the poor, and he was willing to touch people that other people wouldn't go near, and it didn't matter what their race was or their handicaps or whatever it was. He just loved them, and I remember as a young man just thinking, wow, that really resonates with me. And when someone said, do you want to follow a person like that? I said, yeah, I could. That's something I really resonates with me. And it kind of reminded me of my parents, because they've always been those kind of people. They really have reached out to people. You know, my mom told me a story once. There was the middle of winter in Michigan, and my dad saw a guy on the side of the road, a homeless guy, and my dad just pulled over and picked him up and took him somewhere so he could get shelter. So those stories stick in your brain.
Yeah.
And so just people showing the love of Christ to other people. So that was my first response, but I was pretty immature at 13. You know, you're still figuring out life, and you're just kind of coming into your manhood in a sense. And so it wasn't really until I graduated college. Now, I really felt that God was with me my whole life, and I often cried out to him when I needed him, you know, but wasn't really following him, even though I had made that choice. It was really when I was 23 that it really was a major change, and it really became the center of my life. The focal point of my life was there was nothing else was going to be more important than my relationship with God, because I felt like if that got priority in my life, then everything else in my life would get extra priority, because that I was starting there. And so I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful that God kind of called me on that path in my life. And I really just kind of surrendered everything, my career, my relationships. And looking back now on, that was in 1992, when my brother Christopher and I and my brother Randy, we all got baptized together in LA at an all African American church called Miracle City Apostolic Church. We were the only 3 white guys that went there. And it was just awesome.
That should be the movie.
It was really cool.
Yeah,
and
wonderful though.
Yeah, and it was just an amazing journey from that point forward, and everything in my life, I can look back and just see God's hand in everything. And I can also see the times when I didn't trust and tried to take control of my life and how I was going to do, because I thought it was the right thing, and it just doesn't work out the same way. And it's like when God just keeps reminding you, just trust me, just trust me. It's not always going to be great. I mean, I prayed for my brother not to get sick and die from cancer, but he did, but am I angry at God? No, because my brother got the best. He's got the upgrade, and I'm going to get to see him again and spend eternity with him. And I texted Boone here and told him, I said, because he was praying for my brother, and I said, hey, I just want to let you know my brother has gone to heaven, and he's
a winner.
And he goes, and his text to me was, I'm sure he and Shirley, his wife, his beloved, who's now there, met, and they're telling stories about us. And so, that's the hope we have, beyond this side of heaven, that's been my journey.
And it's hope, but it's also a certainty.
Absolutely.
It is a certainty. God doesn't make mistakes. He keeps his promises. You either believe or you don't, of course. But if you believe in God, and unfortunately we're living in a time where Gallup and Barna are saying that over half of Americans don't go to a church anymore. They're not sure there is a God. They don't know. They pray maybe once in a while. They don't sure if they're heard. They don't know who God is. I mean, we are living in times where people are ignorant. That's not a pejorative. They simply do not know. But if you do believe in God, then that what we just talked about, these are hopes, but they're more than hopes. They're certainty. God signed his name to these things, that we will see each other again. We will live for eternity. And that's the choice that we have to make. His choice is that we come to heaven. He wants us to come to heaven. He wants us to live good lives now and to live with him forever. But we have to make the choice. He leaves the choice to us. What do we know while we're here? What do we do while we're here? And what happens to us when we leave these bodies? And we don't die. We just move on to another existence. But we decide where we're going to spend eternity, which is a lot longer than any of our personal lives.
Just a little.
That's right. I love how you say that. I know so many people have lost loved ones. That it's an upgrade.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to make that choice. Thank you so much for being here, and we definitely want to encourage everybody to somehow get to see the Mulligan.
Oh, can he tell you how you do that?
Yes, would you do that for us, Eric?
So to see the Mulligan, go to themulliganmovie.com/theaters.
Awesome. So good to see you. So glad you've made the movie, and so glad you've been here.
Well,
Blessings.
thank you.